Hello there, and a warm welcome to episode 10 of the Aline with Aline podcast series. We are outside today. Thought it'd be rather gorgeous for the last episode of the series because I absolutely adore nature. I'm all about being in nature. To be outside, we've got the lavender behind us, we've got the birds singing, sun shining, and it's absolutely glorious. So feeling very grateful indeed on this beautiful Friday, and really wanted to say thank you so much to all the special guests that have taken their time and their love and really opened their hearts to speak with us throughout the series. Hugely grateful. It's been really wonderful, and to thank you, all of you who've been tuning in and giving your support. Really appreciate you also. So thank you so much for that. We might be a bit wonky actually. There we go. So today I was really feeling, as everybody's shared so beautifully, I felt to share a little bit more about myself and to talk about how we can really work with our inner healing power that we all have, and how by finding somebody who you resonate with, they can help you ignite that in you. So first of all, my name's Aline and I am an intuitive empath. Now, what is an intuitive empath? So empathy, most of us know exactly what empathy is. It's really feeling for somebody else. When you're an empath, you feel everything around you. So if there's somebody who is, well, it depends for everybody. I'll just use me, for example. When I'm in a group of people, it can get really overwhelming because I'm picking up feelings of how everybody's feeling all around me. This is why I love nature so much. It's much less complicated. So when, hello, we've got a little wasp come along to say hello. And we've got a worm down here as well and a woodlouse. So they're all coming to say hi and join us. So what I'd like to say is, being an empath is you feel what other people are feeling. So yes, we can all identify if someone's feeling sad or they're feeling a little bit upset about something or they're feeling angry. What an empath does is actually take on the emotions. And many empaths not only take on the emotions, but they take them on triple-fold, 100-fold, and it's magnified. So to really impart exactly what that feeling is. Now, I'm one of those who comes under that category, and I don't want to put anybody in labels. I'm just talking about my own experience. So an empath is somebody who really feels really deeply, and I'm going to speak from my own experience. So at a very young age, I didn't know what this was, and I was really feeling into this the other day, and just my opinion, but I realized that I was quite clever at a young age. I worked out that for everybody else around me to feel okay, then I feel okay. And I did this unconsciously because, of course, I didn't know at all what was going on. I don't really have very many childhood memories, to be perfectly honest. But what I was told was I used to hide behind my mother's skirts. I would cry a lot. And I would also, there was the moment, my first day of school, my mother actually had to, bless her, she had to push me onto the bus because I was hysterical, screaming, getting onto this bus. And I don't really have very many childhood memories. My childhood wasn't all trauma, by the way. I'm just talking about how I didn't know, and there's so many of us who didn't know what was going on around us. And so what I worked out was, for me to feel okay, everybody else around me had to feel okay. So this is where people pleasing came in. And this is a tool, should we say a tool? Yes, a coping mechanism that I picked up when I was younger. And I worked out, right, well, if I make everybody happy, then everybody's going to feel happy and I'm going to feel happy. Yay! So because this works so well, I carried this through to my teens, I carried through to my 20s, my 30s. I'm 46 years young now. And I realized that for everyone to feel okay, that would make me feel okay. So it was almost, so it was actually people pleasing to the nth degree for my good. So that's quite a hard pill to swallow, because you think, oh yes, you're an empath, you're so generous, you're so warm and loving, but actually ultimately it's to make yourself feel okay. And I'm speaking about myself for this. So being an intuitive empath, so empath, you feel everything. When you're an intuitive empath, you get messages. So not only do I feel everything that's going on around me, but I also get messages bombarded for everybody around me. And because I had nobody to speak to when I was younger about this, because I didn't know what was going on, I was seen as shy or timid. And you know, I was people pleasing, so I was doing exactly what everybody wanted me to do, what my friends, what my teachers, what my family told me that I should do. I did that, and to the point that when I you know, left college, etc., so forth, and went into work roles, always at the back of my mind, well, what would my parents think? What would such and such think? What would they like me to do? There was never any decision making for myself. So this led to quite a few lessons, and I developed other coping mechanisms. So there was one point where I actually decided, I'm going to push this down. This is too much. I don't know when it was. Because like I said, it was just natural for me to feel everything. It probably would have been, I imagine, I would say maybe in my teens, I worked out from various situations that happened. I mean, I was even taken, I'm laughing about this now, but I was even taken to an exorcist by a friend of mine whose father was a vicar, because they thought I had something in me to get, you know, to get it out. Yes, to that point, because I felt so much. So what I actually started doing is I used, let's say, addictions as coping mechanisms. So first of all, I'm just going to be very transparent with you. First of all, I tried smoking marijuana, because what that does, and I'm sure you all know it, your vibrations are up here when there's absolutely drug-free and happy. So when somebody smokes marijuana or takes class A's, then the vibration goes down. So what I learned was that was numbing me. So what I actually started to do was numb myself. And so I numbed myself with drugs. I did that. It was recreational drugs. It was you know, and there's no judgment, because this is what I did. I'm just talking to you about it. So I would go out partying and clubbing, because that's what I thought everybody wanted me to do. At that time, I was going around with a group of boys, and I realize now it was just easier with all the feels, because there wasn't so many complicated emotions going on there. And also I was very, very honest, and I didn't understand if anybody was talking about me behind their back, behind my back, sorry, that really, really hurt. And at that point, for me, boys were very upfront and very direct. So that worked for me to be in that environment. So I used to go clubbing, shall we say. And there was one night I was talking to somebody, and I just had a little voice in my head saying, well, if I wasn't on anything, would I be talking to you? And my voice, little voice in my head, just said yes. And then from that point, I just gave it all up. There was just that moment. It was, I heard a voice, and it was like, really, you don't need this. So, because what had happened is whenever I went partying, I used to love dancing and just being massively creative. That's when I started massaging, actually. That's when that came out. Like the healer in me started to come out in the clubs where I was massaging people whilst I was dancing up on the stage and loving it. Because I suppose there was an element of freedom there, but obviously I didn't need the drugs to feel that element of freedom. That was me pushing everything down to do what everybody else was doing and to join in. I still love to dance, I still love to sing, I just don't need any I just don't need anything to help me, shall we say, get to that point. So that was really interesting for me. And so that was then. I then moved away from my motherland, which was England, and I moved to Mallorca, actually. And that was when I was coming to the end of, not interested in taking drugs, etc., etc., etc. Started a job there, and then it was very quiet in the winter, so I was introduced to alcohol. And what I was doing, I never really drank before, but then I realized that so the drugs had gone out the system, so this was the new drug to push that down. So I was still working out that, okay, well, I'm still numbing myself. So that's what I did. That's what was working for me. So being an intuitive empath, I didn't feel anything. I wasn't feeling all the messages, etc., from everybody, because I was just pushing it down with, at that point, alcohol. And I carried on in this way, to be perfectly honest. So that was I was 19 then. So then I carried on. I left Mallorca. It was on my 21st birthday. I went to have it was one of those makeover things, and the chap said to me, "Oh, you'd be great being one of the salespeople here," because that's what I was doing. I was doing sales, people pleasing. So I left to go and join this company, and the tradition and the environment and the culture of alcohol continued, because we didn't start work until 10 o'clock in the morning, and we finished really late at night. And then we all wound down after work with alcohol. So this continued, and I would have feelings every now and then, I would see things every now and then, but I would really, really push it down. And so this went on until I would probably say into my 30s, and I was in a relationship that I was really trying to get out of, and it had been 3 years too long. I felt in the first 3 months that it shouldn't carry on, but the people pleaser in me said, okay, so this person told me that they were in love with me, and I thought, well, if they're in love with me, then I must be in love with them, not knowing that that was gaslighting and controlling behavior at the time, just thinking, oh, well, that's nice. I was actually going to finish this relationship, but obviously I'm not feeling the right thing, so I will continue that. So anyway, that relationship was rather a narcissistic, rather controlling relationship, and took me away from my family. That person wouldn't let me be around my family. I'm hugely family orientated. I was always with my nieces and nephews at the weekend. I was always with my family, and that stopped, to the point that when I did finally see my nieces and nephews, and they were really young then, they said, "Where have you been, Auntie Al?" So yeah, so it's really interesting looking at the patterns, because that was my people pleasing, and this person, and I take full responsibility for this also, because we are given experiences that we grow and we learn from, and we are given experiences that we learn and we grow from until we actually learn from them, until we say, I don't want that experience anymore, thank you very much. But until we actually learn from that, there we go, there goes the throat chakra, we will keep repeating that. I don't know if that rings any bells with anybody. So that situation that I was in was repetitive. So I had a moment where I just really, really wanted to finish this relationship. There was a moment where this person was rather angry, and they ended up putting their fist through the glass of my front door because they thought that I was in a relationship with a really good friend of mine who was gay. So that made my decision to absolutely, okay, enough is enough. And then through a series of synchronicities, because it took me a while to finally go there, a very, very good friend of mine, we were friends from school, and we're still in touch. She said to me about a very amazing lady who was basically a spiritual life coach. And, you know, I mentioned before, I'd pushed all of that down. I'd pushed down the visions and the feelings and whatever I'd felt in my childhood. I'd pushed all of that down. So I was a little bit not so sure about that. But there was a huge go there, go and see her. And she said to me, why are you here? And I said, well, I want to finally finish this relationship. And that was my truth. That was my absolute truth. And that was the beginning of me getting back in touch with who I really am. So we went through a series of techniques, and I did finally finish that relationship. And it was hard. It was really hard because I'd allowed myself, and I say this because this was the experience, I had allowed myself to be pushed down so much because my weight was commented on. I was told that I wasn't as intelligent as that person, when I was clearly more intelligent. I realise that now. So there was a lot of gaslighting, there was a lot of pushing down, there was a lot of controlling behaviour, and they were also unfaithful. So there was a lot of... and they were a very sad person as well. So, you know, I thank them for allowing me to see what I didn't want, for putting me through that situation so I understand that whatever space I was in, that people pleasing, unsure of myself, I attracted that. You know, I attracted that relationship into my life because I wasn't sure of myself. I was, like I said, I was using alcohol, but not every day. I was going out and using alcohol, you know, partying, binge drinking, if you like. So I wasn't an alcoholic in those terms, but I was certainly using alcohol as a coping mechanism. And so this person came into my life, and I met them actually when I was out drinking, funnily enough, one evening. And yeah, the rest kind of transpired. I got on very, very well with their family. They weren't remotely family orientated. I know they've changed a lot now. I'm just talking about, you know, what the experience for me. And I believe that through the experience having me there, they changed a lot and they grew as well. So we more than likely made some kind of contract before we arrived that we would have this experience. So I accept that. So what I'm doing is I'm just talking about, on an earthly level, the relationships that I've been involved in and how that has shown up my people pleasing, shall we say. So that relationship ended, and I had an epiphany and I decided to move to Spain. So I arrived in Spain, and I was full of the joy of beautiful energy and felt amazing, and then dove straight into, it was only about 2 weeks, but it was very intense and a lot. I fell for the local cad, shall we say, of the village, and that massively affected me. And I didn't understand until not quite recently why it affected me so much. It was because I was feeling everything of the environment that person worked in, and just taking everything on and being a sponge, and it didn't have any outlet. So again, I thank that person for putting me into that situation, because as I said, we are put into situations until we learn from them. So that was another situation. It was a short one, but that was another situation of being put down, of being treated as less, etc., etc. Other women, blah, blah, blah. So, so that was my introduction to Spain. And I continued drinking. I did, I arrived, I was party girl. I had left my quite high paying job, so I was doing quite well. I was waiting to start a sales manager role, which was going to be all on the telephone, but that was taking its time. So I had time, I had time to go out. And I remember there was one night I just thought, I really don't want to go out. I'm so tired. I just, and I thought, I'm not going to go out. And I got a message from a friend then, and she said to me, it's not the same without you. Why aren't you here? And it was a little light bulb moment there as well, because I just thought, oh my goodness, people want me to be there so they can have a nice time. And so that was a little light bulb moment. And I decided I was going to move from that area and move to Barcelona, which I did. And I wanted to be more creative. I wanted to do more theatre. I wanted to be around really creative types and work with that, which was wonderful. But again, alcohol was involved. So without going through absolutely everything, which I already am, but so you see there were patterns. So I moved to Barcelona, and I wanted to get into the theatre world, and I was involved in a group, and I did get into the theatre world. And then there was a little voice, which is like the paternal voice, or the you should do this. It was like, okay, well, you need to do something in sales so you can earn money. So I got a role, I got a job and I started working for an estate agent there. And this estate agent, their culture was alcohol and cocaine. I didn't take cocaine, but that was their culture. And it was a culture of lies as well. And it was indicative of something that happened to me years back when I was in London, when I also worked in that kind of culture. So again, it's like, the lessons were repeating themselves until I said no. So this company brought me on and I was in one division to start with, and then I was in another. And what I would like to point out was, from this point, from seeing the lady before I moved to Spain, the spiritual life coach, she said to me, you have to meet Christos and Foster. Who's Christos and Foster? So I now very much know who Christos and Foster are. They are amazing. They're incredible. There's a beautiful podcast with both of them, and I love them dearly. And it was meeting Christos and Foster. It pretty much said, stop dipping your toe in the water, get on with your spiritual gifts, etc., etc. So I would go and I would have private sessions with them. And so I would have my private reading with Christos, and then I would have the shamanic healing with Foster. And then I went out. In fact, one night I went out straight away, and I would carry on drinking, even though they were saying to me, really, stop the drinking. And I carried on. So I was living a kind of a imbalance, because when I was in the environment, when I was in the shamanic workshops with Foster, when I was in the beautiful private sessions with them both, I felt absolutely at home. And I realize now that when I went out of this environment, I didn't feel at home. So it was like almost like a PTSD or a panic. So what can I do to numb everything that I'm feeling? So, I went back into my normal, shall we say, life, people pleasing, going out, partying, drinking. So so I digressed. I had to go back to that point. So what then happened from there was, with the role in with the real estate agent, I had been going to the shamanic workshops with Foster, and they've been absolutely amazing. And as I said, I would go there, and then I would get back into normal life, if you like. I would still be doing my practices, but I was still surrounded in the wrong energy, which I chose. I was still surrounded by the wrong energy, with the wrong people around me. And it was almost like that was just maintaining me to be in the practices, so I could just about, keep my head above water. And then one year, the lady who was organising for Foster, she just disappeared. And I stepped forward and I said, well, perhaps I could help organise the workshop this year. Now, this was the year just before my 40th birthday. And we were in a beautiful circle and we were putting our intentions out there, our real pure intentions for that year. It was I believe it was around about the spring equinox. Yes, it was. So I called out what my intention was, and my intention is to live my most authentic life. So that was on March the 18th. And that evening, 7 years ago now, and that evening, I was outside. It was pouring with rain. We were in a hotel in the mountains, and I thought it was an absolutely genius idea to go down the steps and just see what was down there. Hadn't seen that there was a big yellow sign saying don't walk down here, and I slipped and I fell on my backside, etc. And so a lot changed. So I had put myself in various situations, yes, to keep learning, to keep growing. And the moment I said, because I guarantee my guides had been talking to me to get me in front of the spiritual life coach, to get me in front of Christos and Foster, to get me to the shamanic workshops, to get me to work with my gifts that I pushed down. And then all of a sudden I'm saying openly, and I'm putting that out to the universe, and my guides are there. I'm saying, I wish to live my most authentic life. Bang. So the guides, the universe said, well, you're in completely the wrong situation. Bang. And then what happened from there was a string of synchronicities. So I fell, but I didn't feel that I had done too much damage. So I carried on, and I even drove back. I was probably in shock, and some of the drivers on the road were very happy with me as I was driving along. In fact, I even remember Foster saying, oh, he's very angry because I think I cut somebody up or I did something. I don't remember. I was just kind of gliding back. And it wasn't until a week later that I decided that, okay, maybe I should go and just see what's happening. So I went to the hospital, and the lady who saw me, she didn't really have the best bedside manner, and she pulled me around and she said my coccyx wasn't broken, this and this, and I'll be absolutely fine. But I couldn't really walk, and I was in a lot of pain, and I'd gone back to work as well. And then in the midst of all of this that I didn't share with you, there was another relationship trying to come through. And this was somebody who I'd known we'd had something had gone on a couple of times before, but it always just ended with somebody else. And it was very short-lived, but this person probably feeling my energy of healing, because there's a really small gap between healing energy and sexual energy. So they were probably feeling my vibration coming up, because I was preparing the shamanic workshop for Foster and Christos, and yes, so that was happening. So they felt my energy, and then I felt flattered because they'd got in touch with me again, even though there was drama. So again, the universe presented me the third time with the same person, and again, is she going to grow from it? Is she going to say no this time? And I didn't. But that person came to see me just after I'd had my accident. So it was almost as if the universe was saying, right, we're going to stop anything, that relationship, we're going to stop, and I'll come to that in a moment, the wrong work environment and the wrong place. So what then happened was that person had got back in touch with me, and I was flattered, etc. They came over, they saw how bad my bruising kind of injuries were, and they encouraged me to go to the hospital, and I thanked them for that. And as I said, at the hospital, the lady wasn't very pleasant, but what they didn't do any kind of scan, so they didn't realize that I had a couple of slipped discs and a retrolisthesis. So I thought, okay, I've got a bruised coccyx, I just get on with it, not knowing that my body had this entire shift, complete shift, because it's had this massive bump. And, you know, so I went around oblivious, basically. I went back into work, and I was with a client, and we were in an apartment, and he said to me, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, fine, thanks." And he said, "You've gone green." Well, he didn't say that. He said, "Let's go outside," because it was actually the person had been smoking in their apartment, which wasn't very pleasant. And so we went outside, and he said, "Aline, you're green." So it was basically, it was pain going on, but I was numb with it. So my body was reacting. My body just completely numbed down. So I couldn't feel everything. And it was reacting to environments. So when I went back to work, my then boss looked at me and said, "You need to go home." That was probably the nicest thing he ever said to me. And from then I decided that I would try and work from home, which was, again, people pleasing, because really what I needed to do was to get some good therapy on my body and rest. But because I didn't know exactly what was going on, I didn't do that. So I'm going to try and summarize the steps that happened next. So this person who was supposed to be coming to see me and stay with me over my birthday, they had booked their tickets and all the rest of it, so that was happening. So I was all excited about that. Then the apartment that I was in, the apartment that I bought, it was ready for a refurb, so I had to move out for them to do the refurb. So it was all going on. So I moved out of there, and the apartment that I was in was 3 stories up with no lift, so I couldn't really go and check on what was going on and do the project managing that I wanted to do, even though I already had somebody who was supposed to be doing that for me. But that's a whole other story. So I'm just showing you, trying to explain, there was a lot of chaos and a lot of growth lessons going on there. So really what I should have said in that situation was, actually, we're going to postpone the refurbishment to until I'm better, because they didn't finish on time because I wasn't checking up on them. And they when I moved back in, they were still in the apartment whilst I was recovering in bed. So all this was going on to the point that there was one night with no windows, and there was an absolute gale storm. But anyway, that's another story. So the situation then happened was, as I said, I kept trying to work, and I was organising appointments for people to do the appointments for me for the real estate. And I was talking to clients on the phone, not realising all that had been going on. So that resulted in me not being able to carry on. And although I was still doing all the calls, etc., so forth, they sent me, it's called a burofax, telling me that I was fired. So the universe had already said, "We don't want you in that environment, so there's the bump, so you rest." But I didn't rest enough. I didn't cut them off enough. So the universe said, "Right, well, let's get you out of that situation." And that was unfair dismissal. So then that was another whole little drama, shall we say. So there was that going on, there was the refurbishment going on, and then this person who had said various romantic things that was coming to see me then came over, and it didn't go very well. Because I wasn't well. I didn't realize I had PTSD. I didn't realize that I was in absolute shock. My whole body was in shock. I didn't know that everything was changing in my system. So I didn't realize that that bump was actually to change everything about me. And so when I was drinking alcohol, which would have been normal for me before, it was affecting me a lot more. And also I had, you know, as I mentioned, I had PTSD. I didn't want to be near people because I was scared of anybody bumping into me. And just to be clear, I hadn't drunk any alcohol from the fall up until this person came to see me, you know, after just around my birthday. So anyway, long story short, this person then said it was over. And there was another woman involved again. So that was the third time. So it was like, okay, the universe is like, really, is she going to actually learn from it this time, please? And yes, she has. So that was that one. And so then I also had to go and see the lawyer and be involved with all that, with the unfair dismissal, with the real estate company. And so that was all going on, plus the refurbishment. And people kept saying, why don't you go and live? Because my parents were living in where I used to live in Andalusia. And I said, why don't you go and live near your parents? With your parents, so they can look after you, because you can't move. Because my mother, bless her, had been out a couple of times to help me because I couldn't move. Anyway, long story short, which I don't do, then realised that through various scans and all the rest of it, because the company that I had been working for, they insisted that I saw a doctor. And the doctor, because I didn't want to leave the house, basically. I didn't want to leave the house because, as I mentioned, I was scared that somebody would bump into me. I was scared that I would fall over again. I was just scared in general, not knowing that actually what I had was post-traumatic stress disorder. So when I went to see this doctor, he was absolutely lovely. And he said, I am not surprised. So finally they got their report, the company that I've been working for, and the doctor's like, yes, she does need to be off. So I was then to get some physiotherapy. And again, there was a little, the message was, leave Barcelona, go and be with your parents and recover. But there's me thinking, oh, there's work, there's this, there's that. So I stayed, and I went to go and have the basically the free healthcare, if you like. And all they did, I was in a taxi for 15 minutes to get there, which hurt like nobody's business. And then when I got back, I had to climb 3 sets of stairs, crawl up 3 flights of stairs. And they didn't really do anything. It was just that it was the same kind of iambic pentameter, the same for everybody. So again, that was a lesson that I didn't listen to my intuition. So I went through that, and then I decided I'm not going back because it's not doing anything. And I made the decision that I was going to have my 40th birthday with my family. And that was when this chap finished with me. So we drove from Barcelona to Andalusia with my cat. Oh, she's amazing. That's another thing about me. You probably realise I adore cats. And she's amazing, my Cleo. She's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So she was with me. She came with me. And I moved back, and I went to a private clinic in Andalusia, and the doctor there, who's now a family friend, just sat me down and told me that I had something called central sensitivity syndrome. And I had no idea what this was, absolutely no idea. She went through a whole list, and she asked me questions, and I told her how I was feeling. And then that's how it all began, really. Then I started trying to understand what is central sensitivity syndrome, and what is fibromyalgia, what is post-traumatic stress disorder. So this angel basically said to me, this is what you have. And I don't want to be labeled, but this then helped me to understand, because the universe and my guides had tried and tried and tried to get me out of all these situations. And it was only by this bump, and it was like, actually, we're going to knock you back into who you really are. We're going to knock you back into your true, authentic self, so you can remember who you are, and you can remember why you were born. Okay, so that's a rather long-winded little story about everything. And I have had more lessons. One of them was in 2020. So because of the bump, and because of all this was going on, it was just a natural progression for me to not want alcohol anymore. I didn't need to go cold turkey. I didn't need to go to rehab or anything. It was just naturally just wasn't interested in it. It just really didn't interest me. And to be around people, who all they wanted to do was drink just did not interest me whatsoever. So I got to the point where friends fell away. I got to the point where I was changing very much in business as well. And whereas before I'd be a people pleaser, I was saying, no, actually, I won't be treated like that. And so friends fell away in that way as well. And then I realized this whole people pleasing situation. So in 2020, I decided to do a year no beer, because it was naturally happening anyway. And then I will have a little bit of kava every once in a blue moon, but it just really doesn't interest me anymore. And what has happened subsequent to that is, with the lockdown of 2020, Foster and Christos released loads of really beautiful Vimeo series, and I was very involved in my studies. So I was massively applying my studies to that. I was really looking at my health, and where I'd been vegetarian before, I became vegan, and I feel so much better for it. And also, just releasing the alcohol and really working on my authentic self, like massively working on my authentic self. And so through all of this, my sensitivities have come back. As I said, I'm an intuitive empath, and it's an absolute gift, but it really needs gentle handling. And I know I'm here to help women like me. I know I'm here to help men who are waking up as well. I know I'm here to help. And particularly with post-traumatic stress disorder, particularly with central sensitivity syndrome, because we don't know what's happening next. There's so much change going on in the world. There's so much collective change, and there's so much, let's say, fear-mongering with the media, because it's the way they can control us, that there's like a collective fear going on. And I have to work really hard on myself not to delve into that, because as well as feeling everybody around me, and in sessions, on Skype, on Zoom, people just, they don't even have to be next to me. I just feel them. Even when we're obviously with my clients on Zoom, I just feel them. So I also feel the collective. So very much I feel when I'm going through something, I feel, okay, well, who can benefit from this? Why am I feeling this? Who have I got to tell about it? And today I was going to come on and talk about what the Akashic channeling means to me. And I've ended up telling pretty much my life story. So there was a reason for that. And I hope that resonates with somebody, because it isn't being about Pollyanna. It isn't about judgment. It doesn't mean if you've had a life of partying and just doing what everybody wants and being in a very competitive industry, and being a real hard hitter, if you like, in sales. It doesn't mean that you're not naturally destined to be here for something else. Because we're all going through massive changes at the moment, and we're all waking up. We're going much more towards the divine feminine. And with that, there needs to be balance. There needs to be the masculine and the feminine. The balance is not all about the feminine. It's not all about the masculine, but it's the balance within us. So if you're finding, throat chakra again, excuse me, somebody needs to hear this. So if you're finding there's lots of changes going on, and you don't feel like doing something or being in a certain environment, listen to that. If you don't feel like being with a certain group of friends, listen to that. And listen from your heart. Really feel into that. It doesn't necessarily mean that if you've got lots and lots of like-minded, gorgeous friends, and you just feel a bit tired one day and you don't want to be with them, that's normal too. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if there's a situation that when you feel into it, it's actually been recurring, it's been a pattern throughout your life, then have a little look at that. And if there's been people around you where you've said, right, I'm now going to change everything, I'm going to change my lifestyle, I don't really want to drink anymore, I don't want to smoke hash anymore, I don't want to really be in this job, because you've really felt that just felt so strongly for you, and then there was many people around you that talked you back into being in that, just listen to yourself. Okay, just listen to yourself. And I would just like to say, so what the Akashic mean for me, so I've explained to you what an intuitive empath is, but there's also, I have many other elements to me. So when working with my clients, I feel things for them, I see things for them, and I also receive very beautiful meditations. So it's just comes into me. It's not me, it's coming through me. So I will close my eyes, or sometimes I don't even need to close my eyes, and I will talk through a guided meditation that will help that particular person. What I also do is I can do that for groups. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have a couple of weeks break, and when probably end of April, May, I think it's going to be, I would really like to create, there's going to be 2 groups to start with, and there's one group I would like to create which are people who experience anxiety, PTSD, chronic fatigue syndrome, lots and lots of that anxiety. What I really want to do, and anybody's welcome, is create that group. So we'll meet once a week. I will take us through, and we'll have the beautiful group energy, and I will take us through, and I will feel what is that meditation for us that week, and I will feel what are the messages for us as that group that week. So that's coming. The other group I would like to create is New Moon Nurturers and Soul Soothers. So the New Moon Nurturers is going to be, funnily enough, on the new moon. And what we will do is we will create intentions together as a group. We won't say what they are because it needs to keep the energy. And that will be coming in May as well. So I will share that with you. And then also people have been asking me, well, what's an Akashic session? It's really difficult to define an Akashic session with just one person, because we're all so different with the channeling. For example, with the channeling, I feel, I see, I hear, I know, I speak. And with Akashic channels, many of us will have, there'll be one clair, if you like. There's the clairsentience, the clairvoyance, and clair means light in French. So beautiful, like the light workers. There will be one clair that it's very, very strong. Now, I have kind of the multitude. So I will feel absolutely everything. I will see, I will voice the messages that are coming through. So for me to say what a Akashic session with me would be like, wouldn't necessarily be for the other person, because they may focus on one clair in particular. And I'm not saying either is better, they're just different. So what I would say would be really important if you're choosing an Akashic channel is just feel it. If you feel it's me, wonderful. I would love to hear from you. The way to contact me is on the website. I'll pop that underneath, and I'll put my email address underneath as well. And you can work with me we can have an Akashic session, or we can go through and we can only do a guided meditation for you. We can create that together, then that's yours to work with until the next time. So that's the way I'm working at the moment. So I've also created a series called it's called the 22 Days of Feeling Self-Love, and that's a really beautiful video series where all you need is half an hour a day, and you have all the videos. So I'll put the link, so you pay for your series, and then each day there's a video. And in the video, we talk about what's the feeling for that day. We go through, each meditation is individualized to that day as well. And there's a different meditation for each day. And then there's a small action. And that's all available, and that's yours for life as well. Because I really feel, and I was told, it's not just, a one-off, it's constant. So It's 22 days, but you can do those 22 days again and again and again. And what I would recommend is you start on a Friday, because it's Venus Day, it's love. We're in Venus at the moment today, and we're in Venus Planetary Hour. So it's all about the love at the moment, and I adore plants, obviously. So that's what's happening with me at the moment. So if you'd like to get in touch, please do, and then we can work out the scheduling, because until I think it's until about the 23rd of April everything's booked. But do get in touch with me anyway, and I can put you on a list if there's a change in the schedule. And then also, if you would like to take the journey, well, with me, because I'll be there, there's a video of me every day. If you'd like to take the journey with me, then the 22 days of self-love, feeling self-love, is really beautiful. And all you need is half an hour a day, half an hour. And it's just focusing on you, because being, I don't want to put us all in categories, but like I said, you know, being empaths, and it's not just for empaths, but we are getting more and more sensitive with the changes. We all are getting more sensitive. So being empaths and feeling more sensitivity, self-care is so important. Putting yourself first is so important. I'm not saying ignore everybody else, but look after yourself first, because that is the only way you can truly help people. Make sure you're okay first. I have to take time out. You know, I have to really replenish my batteries. I have to be in nature. You know, I have to be creative. I have to feel all of that. Otherwise, I'm not any good to anybody. And I don't make any apologies for that. You know, I'll have silent days where I just don't speak to anybody, because that's what I need. You'll work out what's right for you, but the 22 days gives you that half an hour a day to work out what works for you. And it's just giving yourself that time, because how often do people rush around, as I said before, people pleasing to the nth degree, to exhaustion. So this is putting yourself first, really feeling what that feeling is for the day. And then you've got the 22 videos for that you can watch over and over and over again. So I'm going to draw to a close now, and just say thank you so much for joining me today. It's been my absolute honor to have such incredible, special, beautiful guests join me. And it's been really, really beautiful for all of you watching, listening. So please do like, share and subscribe. And we will be back. And when I say we, my cat's roars around me. So that's why I say we. And we will be back with some more fabulous guests. But meanwhile, you've got a chance to tune in to the other beautiful podcasts from before. You know, some really special people there, and I appreciate you. So thank you so much. Thank you to my amazing teachers. Thank you to Foster and Christos T. Perry. Thank you to the Soul Tribe for teaching me the Akashic Records. Thank you to Taya Wood for being a wonderful, wonderful spiritual life coach. And thank you to all of you. So I'm sending you mwah, 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 so much love. Have a wonderful, wonderful Easter. Do something beautiful for yourself, and we will be back in the, I don't know what I was going to use then. I was going to try and use I was trying to use a phrase that didn't quite work. So we'll be back very soon. Shake of a lamb's tail. That's what I was going to say, because it's Easter. So much love. Ho.